Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Today, I am talking to Hanna Tanajura. I think I said it right. We're going to see. I'm going to let her say her own name, but Hanna is an evolutionary astrologist. And so I wanted to have her on because astrology is an obsession of mine. I am not knowledgeable. I just absolutely love it. And it is such a joy to be around Hanna talking about astrology because she really brings it down to a level that those of us who don't study it can understand. And so I figured today could be one of many conversations where we talk about what's going on in the world, what you might want to know, and how you are personally being influenced by the planets. So welcome, Hanna. How are you?
Thank you. And you did say my name perfectly.
Yay!
Thank you. Yes.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So, anyway, we were a little bit talking about what's going on right now at the end of February, early March in with the planets because I had to get pulled off and just kind of follow what was going on in my world for a second. And so you started talking about all these planets being in Pisces. So, do you want to even start with that conversation and what that means?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll get to that in a second, but I just thought that um, it's like we're all so busy, right? There's already so much to do, and there's so many, we could say there's so many different things to do in terms of like priorities, right? We
Hmm.
gotta make sure we eat, we gotta make sure we make money, we gotta take care of business, we gotta make sure we get 8 hours of sleep a night and we're eating the right food. So it's like, why bother look up to the sky and say, for example, Mercury is in Pisces, so it's all about going with the flow instead of like pushing our agenda into things like what, why bother, right? And that's the whole premise of astrology. That is, we are all connected. It's not just like the planets are out there, we're down here, and there's no connection between us. But um, we are all connected. And there's one phrase that I think for me, it's like it just encapsulates everything, which is as above, so below. So if we understand the macrocosm, then we can better bring this knowledge here to the microcosm and use it to live healthier and better lives. And it's very much like understanding the weather, right? Like if you look on your phone, if you look at the weather forecast, and you see that it's snowing and it's, I don't know, 0 degrees, like you're not just gonna put on your bikini and leave the house, right? Like you know better. You'll avoid so much by knowing what clothes to wear and how to better prepare yourself. Instead of saying, no, I am wearing my bikini and I'm just going to go out like that and that's it. And I'm going to have it my way. Like I'm separate for everything around me. So I think that's the whole premise of understanding what's going on out there. And it takes us back to your question, which is like right now, we have so many planets in Pisces. So we have Neptune in Pisces. Neptune has been in Pisces for many years because that's a long, very long transit. But then we have the Sun in Pisces, Mercury, and Saturn in Pisces. So like it's this big Piscean party. And the skies are telling us like, okay, it's time to literally what I just said, as cliche. I have a problem with this phrase because I feel like it's overused. Let's go with the flow, like go with
Mhm.
the flow. Like but it is what the time with the weather, the climate, right? It's like things are happening in a way where life, or we could call it whatever, God or the universe, it's taking us, it's kind of driving the car, and we're on the back seat and going with it. So it is in our best interest to be more flexible, to pay attention to what's going on and adapt to it instead of, my way or the highway. Like, and there are moments, you know, that's the cool thing about astrology is like there are moments where we need to do that. We need to say, okay, I need to kind of take control here and make things happen and have my say and you know, put myself out there in that way. But right now it's so much about this um capacity to go with things and to notice things. You know, I mean, it's such a great moment for spirituality in whatever way that is working for you. You know, for some people, it's going to be going to church. For others, it's going to be doing their meditation, you know, but anything that's connecting you to whatever is beyond our physical life and what needs to get done. It's such a moment now to engage with that, to be in a dialogue with those higher forces. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. I really, it's interesting because when you were saying that, I'm like, I really feel like this is such a huge time, as you said, to pay attention. And I mean, even with the weather constantly changing, to go with the flow, you need to pay attention to the fact that one day we're in 70 degrees, the next day we're in the teens. And so you're going to have to adjust your plans according to that. You're needing to work with the weather. And so I really think that this is a time for us to learn how to work with the weather, other people, the planets, and really pay attention instead of just being in our head, which can happen when people are so busy. They just get in their head and get robotic. And now is a time to get out of that place, you know, to listen to your gut and your intuition and so on. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know, the funny thing is a lot of people know a lot of astrology is becoming more mainstream, which is it's so awesome because it's such a powerful tool. At the same time, it's also a little scary because it can be used to do a lot of damage. You can use, you know, it's like, oh, I've heard these things about astrology, so now I'm an astrologer. Now I know everything about it. Now I get to use it and put people in boxes and say things like, for example, I don't know, it's Mercury's retrograde, so it's everything is gonna go wrong. And it's like, no, that is almost like, you know, having a lemon and squeezing it and getting one tiny drop and saying that, okay, I got it. Like, no, it's so much more. And it's so much deeper than that. But anyways, the reason why I'm saying this is because you know, as it's becoming more mainstream and now a lot of people know these like astrological terms like Mercury retrograde, and but people only talk about Mercury when it's retrograde. Right now, Mercury is going through Pisces. So it's all about Mercury's about our mode of operation. It's like, how can we better navigate life? Like, that's Mercury. So Mercury is saying, like, the message is like, okay, I'm in Pisces now. So the best way for all of us to navigate our lives and get things done and like our daily operations, it's to be open and
Mhm.
flexible and to you know, it's so much more mystical in the sense that it's like, pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the way things are moving in your life. Like, don't force your way or your way of doing things. Like, don't be like literally what you just said, don't be an autopilot. Look at everything, you know, look at the beauty in things, look at the bigger picture in things and the meaning of things. It's like life is so much more than our to-do list and getting things done. So it's a lot more um yeah, just a lot more focused on all those things instead of just one specific way to do things. So that's the way to go right now. You
Mhm.
know, and it changes fast too. Mercury is such a fast planet, so it's like and it's just by that, like, you don't have to know, you don't have to be a master astrologer, but just by tracking Mercury, you can better have these understandings of like, okay, what is the best mode of operation right now, these
Mhm.
next few weeks, right?
Mhm. I remember when I got a reading from you, and I would encourage anyone to get a reading from you because they are so in depth. But you were saying to me, I was born under Mercury retrograde. So you were saying you probably feel really at home when Mercury's in retrograde. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel like it's ever been all these things that people say that things are going wrong. And it doesn't feel that way to me. And when you talk about even Mercury in retrograde or it's going direct, there's just a lot more information about it that each person needs to look at for themselves and how their relationship is, right? Like it's not just even the planets in relationship, it's how it's relating to you and your personal chart. So,
Yeah, it's so complex
mhm,
because we are so complex, right? Like life is complex, and it's like, and I think that's the beauty of astrology is that we're not separate from it. Astrology is just a way. It's almost like looking in the mirror. You don't look in the mirror and say, like, oh, that's a different person. You understand it's just a reflection of who you are. So
mhm,
that's what astrology does. It's reflecting something and it's giving us a language of understanding what this reflection is telling us. So then if we bring that into our lives, we can better understand everything. We can better understand ourselves, the people in our lives, our relationships, like where we are in our current evolution, like what's important to me now, what are my priorities, where to go, what's my purpose here, like what, and everything, it's almost like it's like having all these pieces of the puzzle and putting the puzzle together, and then you just have this whole new, you're still you and you're still having the life you had before, but now you have this capacity to see your life from a higher point of view because you kind of, you see the big picture, but then from a like it's so much deeper and everything, all these like I don't know if this specific phrase came up in your reading, you tell me, but it's like something that might be so simple that you're doing or that is important to you, and you don't even like understand how that's part of your own soul's evolution.
mhm,
And it could be something so simple like how can, I don't know, like how can work in a garden is and work with the soil, how is that like making me a better like evolving my consciousness or my being. And it is like it's that's why it's bringing so much just a deeper understanding to everything in our lives. And to me, that's the purpose of
mhm,
astrology, is not to use it to categorize people, because that's what I see. And that is, like going back to what I was saying before, that's it is incredible that's becoming, astrology is becoming more accessible,
mhm,
but at the same time, it can be very damaging because it puts, if you don't use it right, it's that phrase, with great response, what is it? With a great, can't remember now, something like with great knowledge comes great responsibility, something
got
along
it.
those lines. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's like if you use this like incredible, it's to me it's a mystery school. Our ancestors were looking up to the sky and studying the sky and taking notes, and like it's so much how astrology works. It's like you observe and then you take notes and then you make correlations, to earth and sky all the time. So like our human beings have been doing that for since the beginning of times pretty much. So it's so deep and it's so complex. And I've been studying for years, and I'm nowhere near like, to me, I still know very, very little. And then to know this, and then to say something, and to see something on social media that, for example, like, oh, Gemini sucks, or I don't know, every Scorpio is a sex addict, or or evil. And it's just like, no, that's just such a bad use of such an incredible tool. It's like such a waste, and it makes me so mad. I was like, ugh, I don't want to follow this person anymore, you know. Or I have friends that will send me things that I get it, they're funny, they're memes or whatever, but like to me, I'm like, no, that's just bad astrology. Like,
Right. No,
you know,
it's funny. I follow this tarot guy, Chris Reck, and he's always saying on there, he's like, oh, you Aries and Pisces are always talking bad about each other. I don't ever want it. And he's like, oh gosh, in his mind, he's like, every single one of the Aries and every single one of the Pisces are unique people. If he's like, if you're gonna eliminate a whole category of people, you're bad. And it's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you choose to get to know each person, what their complexity is? Because I mean, they are a whole chart, right? There's a whole chart, and there's lots of things with different aspects that influence somebody, but also each person is just going to be each person. How the planet is influencing them is going to be different to somebody who is not using how the planet, who's kind of unconscious and fighting against. So um, I think that it's highly interesting. I would love to, if you're interested in going there for a moment, to talk about the big, huge one at the moment that so many people are talking about, which is Pluto moving into Aquarius. Do you have any words of wisdom for us in this long, long transit?
my God, we could do a whole podcast, workshop on Pluto and Aquarius. I mean, there's so much, so much to be said. But I actually did a mini presentation on Pluto and Aquarius. So I'll have to send you the link. That was last year, but I get to talk a little bit more in depth about it. But in a simple way, well, first of all, Pluto, that's a very long transit. That's a 20-year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just like in the very beginning of, a very, very long time. And so just so you have an idea, like last time Pluto was in Aquarius was back in the 1700s. And that's when a lot of the revolutions were happening in the world. So we had the French Revolution, we had the American Revolution, we had there's so many different things going on. And Aquarius is all about bringing a new way of doing things, bringing a new paradigm, bringing a new way of thinking, of being, of doing things. And um, so Pluto and Aquarius can be a time when we are really evolving fast, like accelerating at so many levels, in the medical field, engineering, in astrology. Astrology is represented by Aquarius, cosmology, like all fields, AI, technology, like space travel. I mean, we are just like like the potential is immense. It's incredible. And at the same time, we need to be careful. Well, we have many things to be careful, but I think a big one is moving forward, into the future and the potential, and just going, and forgetting and moving too fast and neglecting the emotional,
Mm.
right? So Aquarius is the mind, it's the higher mind, it's a third eye, and it's not connected to the physical, the
Mm-hmm.
archetype of Aquarius. It's not connected to the physical, it's not connected to the emotional. But
Mm-hmm.
at a higher level, like just what you're saying, a higher expression of Aquarius will won't just go to the mind, but it will bring the emotions and the heart and the body with it. So I think the risk of Pluto and Aquarius is the bionic human,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or moving into, oh, literally moving to um, the next galaxy. This I cannot wait to see. I mean, we are already seeing so much of the space exploration and what we're discovering and having access to, and this is just the beginning. I mean, I am I'm not going to say 100% um, because, it's a big thing to say, but I find it so hard. I find it nearly impossible that in the next 20 years we don't discover life elsewhere in the universe and start to communicate and start to having that be a part of our lives. I talk about this in this Pluto and Aquarius presentation talk I gave. It's so much about um what was I going to say? Going with like, what if we start to branch out, and it's the intergalactic human, and then we're having these, and we're communicating with other forms of beings out there, and then they give us technology or some sort of something that help us move forward in our own technological advances here, and that could incorporate everything like medicine. I mean, I am so excited to see the what we're gonna discover, the cures for diseases, like all of the Aquarian diseases and illnesses that are all mental and mind related, and Alzheimer's and dementia. Like, this is a time where we can really like find these cures, and it's such that the potential is to really change civilization for the better, and that's where free will comes in. That's when we need to be careful. That's when we need to be doing our own work,
Mhm.
emotional work, looking at ourselves as we're moving forward, as we are progressing, as we are, right? So because I think the at the highest level, Pluto and Aquarius is, let's come together, let's create a new earth together. Let's move into the next phase of human evolution together.
Mhm.
Um, so the potential is there and the risk is there as well, but that's going to be and it goes back to what you said, free will. How are we using those energies? And it's another, to me, bad use of astrology when you see something. I always say this, like, if you see someone, if you're talking to an astrologer, or if you're watching a movie or whatever it is, like having access to astrological content, and the person is saying this is going to happen, I say run away.
Right.
Run away.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I think what astrology can do is it can help you better navigate your life and not determine things for you.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and there are many types of astrology, and the one I work with, that's the one I can speak for. I can't speak for the other ones, but the one I work with is evolutionary astrology, which is all the premise is we are eternal beings. Our
Mhm.
soul is eternal. Our soul is an um, infinite exploration and expansion and journey. And this life is just a pit stop, right?
Mhm.
It's a chance to learn, to grow, to experience. But then as your body fades, you keep going, like your
Mhm.
soul keeps going. So the premise of the purpose, one of the purposes to me of evolutionary astrology is to help you understand where you are in this timeline of your soul's consciousness. Like, where am I coming from in terms of what are the themes that I've been working on? What are the gifts and the capacities that I'm bringing? It's the when we say, "Oh, I am this way," I know it's my tendency, or I'm naturally, I don't know, social, or I'm naturally more reserved, or whatever it is, like whatever traits that you carry, they have been developed in the past. You've had experiences that, you see someone, you see a kid that's super intelligent, right? That's just an incredible mind, brilliant, like Mozart, right? That I think, I don't know how many, I think it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 when he,
Mhm.
um, um, I don't know if it was like his first, well, he was a genius, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, why? Where was he coming from? He was
Right.
coming from existences where he got to really develop those skills. And then
Mm-hmm.
he comes into this life as, okay, this is a continuation of something that I've started in the past. And now I'm continuing. Now I'm moving to the next level. Now I'm developing other parts of myself. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's the beauty of it. That gives you that compass, that gives you that understanding that I was telling you, that I was talking before, this higher and deeper understanding of you, your life, your relationships. But again, it's a tool,
Mm-hmm.
not a determined factor or way of being, or you have to do this or you have to be this way, because then it just takes our power away. And we want to be empowered, not powerless, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I always say if you see something like that, it's very deterministic about the signs, or you are this way, or if you're I see this so many times. If you're dating a Gemini, don't. It's like, what? Like, it's just a bad astrology.
Right. There's too many great Geminis out there. So
And
just
Gemini is amazing. I mean, if we didn't have Gemini, like whenever someone talks to me crap about Gemini, I ask, do you like to travel? They're like, yes, that is Gemini.
mm-hmm.
We're all like, we're made of the 12 signs.
Mm-hmm.
12 signs are the 12 archetypes that, um, the 12 forces that make up everything in
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, in our life. So Gemini is learning. Gemini is, we're in this Gemini right now, this Gemini conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like to go and have conversation with your friends, that's a Gemini thing. Oh, I hate Gemini. You don't like to travel. You don't like to learn new things. So that is all Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, I appreciate your viewpoint on everything and using so much as a learning and, just going back into what you were saying about Pluto and Aquarius and coming to that, like my channel is really all about bringing us back to our personal power. And so we can see what could be happening technologically in the world. But on that personal basis, you were really talking about integrating into yourself, not just in your mind or in your third eye, but really bringing it into the physical, bringing it into the emotional. And it's one of the things that we can do on a daily basis is ask if we're integrated in ourselves and then ask if we're integrated with others because this is such a huge time of collaboration and connecting with other people. So on a personal standpoint, we can just ask those questions on a daily basis to see if we're utilizing those two things in order to move forward. What else would you personally ask people to ask themselves as we're, using Pluto and Aquarius as a touch point or something else, whatever you want to use?
And in terms of asking people,
Like how they can integrate and connect with the energies of Pluto and Aquarius, or that's the biggest one because I know it's that I'm aware of. I'm a total novice, but that's a new energy that's coming towards us, and it's going to be around for 20 years. So how can they tap into that? I know in the world you were talking about all these advancements and how as a society we need to really make sure that we're tapping in. But I guess I'm asking you for some questions for people to talk to
mm,
themselves about on a daily basis to use the energies. Does that make sense?
yeah, I think, I mean, if we're really talking about things in a personal level,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing would be to understand their charts, to
Mm-hmm.
understand their soul journeys, because to me, I mean, and I'm biased because that's what I do, and that's what I'm in love with, and how I spend my time. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally biased here, but we're all so unique.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to develop different things. I had a conversation with a client the other day. And I love working with women. I love working with, because, from if we look from a historical point of view, of course, we've been not treated with the respect and admiration that we deserve. And we have not, from speaking very generally, like we have not been able to have access to a lot, to power, to leadership, to really developing ourselves. The role of women were at home taking care of the kids, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a time where we're seeing women go out in the world, the workforce, and develop themselves and access their creativity and create and be who they want to be authentically and find their voice and find their place. So if I'm but if I'm working with a chart, if I'm in a session with a woman who has had the possibility and the opportunities to do this in her past, and she's here now to learn how to be a mother, to learn how to take care of others, to learn how to be at home instead of always outside doing things and following, her ambitions, so ambition and it's like so it changes the whole conversation. So the conversation that I'm going to have with the woman who's here to have a career and make money and feel empowered in that way and maybe not have kids in this lifetime, it's a completely different conversation than with the woman who's here to learn how to be a mother and maybe even learn how to be a child as well, in terms of like taking care of herself and emotions. um you see this in a lot of charts of people that are brilliant minds, do extremely well in their careers and their jobs, and they're really making it out there, but they don't know how to be in conversation with their own emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to feel. Like so many times I've asked, what do you do when you're upset? What do you do when you had a bad day? And they're like, oh, I just go and watch a movie or I go and I talk to my friend. It's like, but do you know that you can't just sit and feel? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where do you feel pain in your body? Is it in your arm? Is it in your head? Is it in your, I don't know. I've never noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just again it goes to like from a personal level, it's so different from person to person. And that's why I think the understanding your natal chart, which is, if for those who don't know what a natal chart is, it's the photograph of the sky at the moment of your birth. So, where the sun was, where the moon and Mars and Neptune and all the planets. So understanding that and really living life with this higher and deeper understanding of who you are and what your life is about and all of that stuff. So from a personal level, I think that's the best advice I can give. But in terms of a more general, I think it takes us back in, with Pluto and Aquarius, I think it takes us back to um, as we're moving forward, to keep coming back to the heart, to keep coming back to the emotions. Like we're, wherever Pluto is transiting, it's going to bring the shadow. It's going to bring what's not working, the insecurities, the vulnerabilities, the shadows, like everything we don't want to look at, the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the risk of Aquarius is okay, let's find solutions, let's move forward, let's figure this out, let's use technology to help, like whatever it is. But I think the deepest message is emotions. Look
Mm-hmm.
at yourself, investigate, go deep within. It goes to like have that honest conversation with yourself, and then you bring the solutions, and then okay, this is what I need to do to empower myself, to heal, to recuperate, whatever you need. And that's I think that's one of the hardest things to do, to be in the emotions, to feel things, to confront your demons, whatever they are, right? The pain, the suffering, the grief, the and we're I don't think, and that's I think that's I think we don't learn this. in our
Mhm.
schooling years. We don't learn about emo. I mean, you could, I'm sure you have some great insights about this because that's what you do. But it's like we don't have a class in school when we're 5 years old that teaches how to access our emotions and understand what we're feelings and then do something about it, as in like, okay, I feel grief or I feel sad or I feel, and then what do I do with this? Like, what do I do in a healthy way? How do I process this? How do I sit with myself? How do I nurture myself? How do I allow myself to feel? It's like that itself. It's a huge. I think it's a huge conversation. It's what you teach, right? It's what you help people do. And what are your thoughts about that?
I just think that if we bypass the hearts and the body, right? The body to me is like more than like the physical. It's that cellular response that happens throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
I think that if we bypass that, we bypass what matters to us because the feelings tell us what matter. And so often people are just trying to fix things, and so they don't have fulfillment. And so if you're just going to fix a relationship, a job, your health, even, whatever it is, whatever tiny even thing it is, if you miss the heart of it, that part that pulses, you squeeze out the thing that keeps you truly alive and thriving. And I personally believe that's why so many people feel not seen, not heard, unfulfilled, empty, breaking, because they're bypassing the thing that is actually pumping through them, and giving them passion and telling them where they're not passionate. I mean, we need to know if something makes us feel small and useless, that maybe we're not supposed to be there. If you're grieving the place that you're going on a daily basis, whether it's to a partner's house, a friend's house, your work, whatever, if it's breaking you that deeply, we need to check in, and we need to feel it so that we can make new choices and find the thing that makes us feel alive again while we're here, while we're here in this body, which, I know you said earlier, it's a point on our timeline. And yet, while we're here, why not make it as much of a conscious point, like where we really nurture this life, this body, this experience to its fullest, and truly honor ourselves in that process. So,
yeah, beautifully said. We're not used to seeing feelings and emotions as information,
mhm.
right? Like, hey, I'm talking to you. Pay attention to me. I have something here that I'm trying to say. Um, yeah, it's so important, and yet so I feel like we still really need, and I can see that in my own life. I have a tendency to rush and get to the next thing that I need to do. And now that I've been working with my chart for years now, like now I understand why. Why am I this way? Um, where's this coming from? And I also know one of some of the directions for this um this life for me, this incarnation, what it's about, what I'm here to develop. And one of the things that I'm here to develop is which is very much the Pisces conversation we're having. It's like, wait. It's okay not to get everything done and not be productive all the time. And it's okay to just be. And for some people, that's so easy to do. And
Mhm.
that's their comfort zone. And they're here to learn the opposite. And it goes back to just really, really understanding what our soul journey is about and how it's not like it makes it easier for me because I have this deeper understanding, but because I'm more conscious, I have more choice about
Mhm.
how I live my life and how when these moments of, whatever it is, stress, when I'm upset, when things are not working out, when I'm not fighting it anymore, or I am, but a bit less,
Yeah, yeah. No,
you
I
know?
love that it takes away some of the judgment and the guilt or the shame
Yeah.
that we could layer on ourselves. Like, I think people are carrying that around so much, and the chart can really help with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, at least I can go to, okay, I'm failing. So
Hmm.
like to that place so fast when it's like, wow, it's not working the way I thought it would. I'm failing. I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing a good job of being a human being. I should
Hmm.
be in a different place, whatever
Hmm.
it is, right? I should be um doing this or making more money or at a different place or whatever it is. Like we all have these stories and expectations of ourselves, but um it's a very different um, and very Aquarian as well, which is this shift in paradigm in our own minds, in our own structures of thoughts that for so many of us, we've been carrying those same dynamics from how many years?
Hmm.
And to shift that and to say, no, I'm actually very well positioned
Hmm.
in where I am, changes the whole thing. It changes the game, and it does not make it necessarily easier. It can, but you're not at least that's how my experience, I'm not resisting things as much as I used to because I have a bigger understanding of what's happening and how that's part of my own growing, how that's part of my own learning, and my own development. And I think one of the most beautiful things I've learned with astrology and working with different charts is like there is no such thing as one shoe fits all. It doesn't. It does not work like that. We're all so unique. Our journey is so unique. Our soul's path is so unique. So to put ourselves in these boxes of like what society says we need to be doing, and we need to graduate high school, and we need to go to college, and we need to get a job, and we need to buy a house, and we need to have kids and have a dog, make good money, and then retire. Like that is not the path for everyone.
Hmm.
If in trying to fit into that when you're not meant to be doing that, when your soul is screaming and saying no, and your feelings are informing you that's not the way, that is such a disservice that you're doing to to yourself. And understanding what your life is about, that's, I think, to me, that's the greatest treasure in this specific tool that is astrology. So
No, I
yeah,
love that.
but
I
again,
mean,
I am extremely biased about this thing.
no, I love your bias. I would highly encourage anybody to come and see you. I mean, I even know I've done a lot of studying on like how many kids who go to college actually graduate. It's only 47% don't ever graduate college, even going through 6 years. So they might go to school for 6 years in college and never actually graduate. And I work with a lot of dropouts, and they are listening to their bodies earlier on and finding that this isn't the path for me. But then there's that fear on the other side of, but what is my path? Because this is what has been pushed and ingrained into me for so many years, that this is the path. And so astrology or working with somebody like myself is like, it's a really good idea when you feel like the path that's been programmed in isn't working for you and your body is screaming or your life is falling apart. But even before that, like before things start to fall apart, just so that you can listen more. I know for me, it helped me to stop working against myself, judging myself when you were talking to me about like Neptune on my Venus. And I was like, what is that? And it's okay to just be in this place of fog and not have clarity. And there's such a huge part of me that's always about clarity. And moving with choice. And that is a part of how I function. But there's certain times in my life where that doesn't work for me. Like I just feel like I'm jumping in and then jumping back, and really started to judge myself for that indecision. And so it was such a kindness for me to come to you and for you to speak on that part of my chart without knowing that I was going through these pains and this self-judgment. And then to continue to remind myself, because you have the dates, right? You're like,
Hmm.
here are the dates when you're in this no man's land, is like what I like to call it. And so just keep breathing through this time, because as you make a decision, you're probably gonna go back on yourself. So I would just say, for as many people as possible, I'm gonna put your details in the comments or in the details of this, so they can reach out, and to just know that you don't like go quickly over it. Like you really investigate a chart with somebody and their life experience in that chart so far. And it's very kind and affirming, and it's just, I don't know, eye-opening for me. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for talking about my work, and but I'm very grateful. But at the same time, um, I do want. I mean, I am a. Of course, it's what I do and it's my work and it's my passion. But I want to be a spokesperson for astrology. Period.
Mhm.
Not just me, but if you find a good, like because to me, a good astrologer is someone who's very knowledgeable, someone who has the knowledge, who study, who've dedicated themselves, who are also passionate about it, and also someone who can hold the space for you, who can
Mhm.
really hold the space for you and not just kind of, you know, okay, you're just a moment of my day. Like, so if not everyone's going to resonate with me. So I just want to say that astrology is incredible. If you had a bad experience in the past, or if you have a bad experience in the astrology with in the future, it's not astrology, it's the astrologer. Go find another one, you know?
Right. Mhm.
And I just want to say, I just want to go back really quick to what you said about the kids you've been working with and the generations you're working with. Like the new generations coming in, they come in. So we had Neptune in Aquarius for a while. We had Uranus in Aquarius for a while. So the newer generations coming into this planet, they are here to be different. They're
Mhm.
here to bring the new paradigm. They're not here to live, the way life has been unfolding in the structures of how life should be and how it should be lived and what, the way things should be done. Like it's part of their own soul's intention and incarnating on this planet at this time. It's like, I'm here to do it differently. I'm a part of a soul group that's really here to take humanity forward. So part of taking humanity forward is we can continue to just um, con- to continue to do what we're doing before, what human beings were doing before. Like we need to bring something new. So it's so if I'm reading a chart of someone born, in the last 20 years or even before that, it's like, and they're trying to just follow that, step by step that their parents did, it's not going to work. It's probably not going to work.
Mhm.
So, and they're going to be upset and they're going to be like, why am I depressed? Right? Why am I unfulfilled? Why I have everything, I have everything that I'm supposed to have, and I'm being everything I'm supposed to be, that I was taught that I needed to be successful and to live on this planet. But then I'm so unhappy and life is
Yeah.
not working out for me. So like, and to know this from the get-go, it's so different because you can make that different choices, right?
Right.
So yeah, college is not going to be for everyone.
No.
Um, and that's okay. And being okay with that, I mean, I think that's the treasure in it.
Yeah, some of the angst is what is really starting some new businesses, new pathways. One of the parents that I was working with before, one of the things I said to her, I'm like, the reason that homeschooling started is, either the parents or the kids had angst that this wasn't working. And so people looked for another solution. And listening and wanting to support somebody and doing things different is so huge. And it's the same thing. So on the flip side, the parents, you're not doing something wrong if your kid isn't excited to go on the programmed path or the path that you had so much fun doing or your other kids had so much fun doing. They're not wrong. They're just here to have a different experience. And the more that we can support them in finding out what that other experience is, the faster that they find it instead of making themselves feel wrong or shamed or hiding or whatever else that people are doing these days, because they don't allow themselves to explore something different and new choices, and they just condemn themselves or they hide. So I think this is a real time of deep and meaningful support that we all need to have for each other, and really studying the new people that are coming through. I mean, it's probably my greatest lifetime, it's not an achievement at all. Like my lifetime endeavor is studying my own children, because in studying them, I get to support where they light up and just hold space and help them to navigate that and help it to not be so difficult as they're charting courses that are unusual or haven't been done. I mean, my oldest son is graduating in 3 years instead of 4 years out of high school. And it's like, it's not heard of, and it's totally him. So as much as it was tragic for me as a mom, when I heard I was going to lose him for an extra year, I was like, all right, this is my job in supporting him in that path. And it totally makes sense that he would go and do something like that. Let's done it in 3, so. Mhm.
And these new kids are smart.
Mhm.
They
They
are
are.
smart and they're connected. Like they are so, I mean, they are connected to, their like their antennas are up. And you talked about the Venus, Neptune on your chart. It's like when we have these Uranus, Aquarius, Neptune, Pisces, when we have these energies either happening in the skies or in our charts, we are picking up information from different spheres of life, from the other realms, from other dimensions, whatever word we use for it, from God, from the universe, from the cosmos. So, which is incredible. And
Mhm.
then, but I think one of the things that we need to support the new generations is to embody, not to be out there, you know, connecting and having all these insights and have, because they already have, and they're gonna continue to be, to have great ideas and
Mhm.
these incredible ways of moving forward and unusual ways of thinking, right?
Mhm.
Which is so exciting and awesome and incredible. But they need to be supported in how to bring this into the physical,
Mhm.
into the tangible. Okay, I had this incredible idea. Now, how do I make this happen? What are the steps? What do I need to do in order to make this manifest in physical? Because we are in the physical realm here, right? So I think that's another thing too. We talked about the Pluto and Aquarius and the emotions, but also the body, the
Mhm.
physical, and um, if we go back to space exploration and finding life on different planets and maybe even space tourism. Can you
Mhm.
imagine, like, instead of saying, like, I'm going to Bali for my vacation, I'm going to Venus. I'm
Right.
gonna go on vacation to a different galaxy. Um, but what about our planet? What are we doing to the Earth? Like, what's happening still? Like,
Mhm.
we are butchering. Like, there's. I mean, that's a whole conversation itself. But it's not just about moving far and away to a galaxy far, far away. But it is here and now. Like here, this physical dimension, our planet, the environment, the animals, our bodies, the connection with food, the food we're eating, nutrition, and that's the environment. I mean, it's everything down here that we also need to pay attention instead of just moving up, high, out.
Mhm.
And I think that's also part of the kids, emotions and body too. Like emotions and the physical also need to be um, important and to be um, nourished.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think if we allow ourselves to end there and really ask people to connect to their bodies, connect to their emotions, use that as a guide at the moment while they're being imaginative and dreaming and scheming of the new things that are going to come and how they're going to be a part of creating that. Um, that's a good place for people to start. And yes, I'm all for people choosing whatever astrologist they want to out there. I would highly personally recommend you, just because the other piece that I really look at is not just that somebody holds space, but they can speak in language that is understandable. And hopefully during this conversation today, they can relate to you, take some things home and realize that that is what you do. And if they are exploring anyone else, I would just ask that you really look at, does that astrologer bring the language in a way that you can understand? Otherwise, it really is going to just go over your head, because I've been there before. I'm like, I'm not really sure what you just said. It was a lot of terminology that didn't make sense to me, and I didn't know how to bring it into my life. And that's the piece that I really personally love about how you work, is you allow me to bring it into my own life and understand and bring a little more kindness to my life, right? I really do think that's what you've brought through astrology for me, is some kindness. So I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you for sharing that. It's that's my goal. So to know that I achieved that and I did that, I'm very grateful. And
Yeah.
thank you for inviting me. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour. I can't believe I've been talking for an hour.
It's
Uh,
it's good.
it's so bad if you give me just a little. That's why I'm like, if you don't like, I always tell like people, like, if you don't like astrology, if you're not curious, don't ask me questions, because I will just start, and I would do a whole podcast.
It's good.
you
I
know.
think more people need to know about it, and so this is a great place to start. And then if anybody's listening and have more questions, just put them in the chat, or I will have your details on there. They can reach out to you directly too. So thank
Wonderful.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.